All right, everyone. We're here again for another I'm Speaking segment. My invited guest tonight will be Nova Hustles, formerly Nova Dasher. He's up in the Northern Virginia market. He's been in the gig app space for a while, and I say that I have a shared history of him because when I started the Gig Geezer channel back in September, October 2021, Nova Hustle's channel was one that I checked out. I'm not gonna say I was an early subscriber like in his early hundreds, but back when he had less than 1,000 subscribers, I was checking out his content. So I'm gonna bring on Nova Hustles right now. Hey man.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Yeah, thanks for agreeing to come on. I apologize though, but it looks like I'm checking out something that's not worth my while. In fact, I'm gonna talk about that very shortly. Maybe I might. Now pass. It was actually a gig app offer, and
Okay.
I, yeah, and it fit within my parameters. But I'm like, nah, I ain't gonna do it. Over in the chat room, we've got Red from Gig Wars. Hey there. Hola, yeah, that's right. Buenos noches, boa sorte in the Portuguese. Got here Rideshare Rodeo Steve Johnson.
What's up,
That's right.
Steve?
Yeah. Um. So as I was talking about with Nova Hustle. Yeah, I checked out his content and I would comment on his content and um I'm not gonna say it was motivational, but it was nice to see what other people were doing in other markets. So, but if you notice his sweater, even though it says top decliner,
Yeah,
it
man.
is of a certain color that kind of speaks to one of his interests. He is an avid Washington Commanders fan. He isn't as
I am.
delusional as a Dallas Cowboy fan, but you can tell his loyalty. Now, I'll say this too. Personally, I was once a Dallas Cowboys fan, but that was back until the day that one Gerald Jones purchased the Cowboys and fired Tom Landry, and I've not been a fan of the Cowboys since. I melted my Cowboys card that fateful day in March 1989. But anyway, the Commanders, of course. I think back to the days of George Allen and his over the hill gang, or what you would say are geezers of today. I'll throw in a little bit of name dropping. Bruce Allen, who was George's son, was an agent whom I used to call rather freely back in the 1990s when I was a sports reporter. Bruce went on to be the Raiders general manager. And my next knowledge of the franchise was when I worked in Richmond, Virginia at the Richmond Times Dispatch. And that was during the St. Joe Gibbs era. And I went on to meet one of the linemen. He's from South Carolina. He went to Clemson, Joe Bostic. That was at an athletic function in this state back in the 1990s. And another name dropping that I think Nova Dasher probably would talk more about is one Irvin Johnson Jr., who was a part of the ownership group,
Hmm.
right?
Yes, he's definitely. I always at the games after they win, for sure.
Yeah, and he courted LeBron James, if memory serves me correct, to the Lakers, and they went on to
Lakers.
win a championship. The reason why I'm bringing up Irvin Johnson or Magic Johnson is because I also had a one on one with him back in my first year in the newspaper business, and that was back in the late 1980s. But anyway, winning and success has followed him. I mean, he's a part of the ownership group with the Los Angeles Dodgers. They've won a couple of World Series titles, and now with him being a part of the ownership group with the current franchise, they've gone to an NFC Championship game, right?
I know. Yeah, it was great. It was it didn't work out in the end, but I'm happy with the team, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Okay, so nobody, no, now y'all can throw shit at them about the Commanders, but hey, look, they've gone from being a laughing stock, from what I understand, to hey, one game away from playing the Chiefs, right, in the Super
Yeah.
Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Rideshare Road Warrior Rick. Hey man, it's been a while since you've been through here. Thanks for coming through. There he is, Rideshare Road Warrior Rick. And then Nola Grind. Man, I got to get in contact with you. Nola Grind. He's the poker player from New Orleans.
Yes, he
And
is. He's my buddy, man. We're tight. I like him. He's a good guy for sure.
okay, yeah, I got to get in contact with him. Don't be surprised, man. You see an email from me one of these days. I say that because I'm always looking to invite folk onto the show, onto the live stream. So we were talking a few moments before the live stream, and you mentioned that you had officially over 23,000 completed
Yeah,
deliveries according to the app. I
yep, that's
have,
right.
according to the app, just under 6,582. And I famously have said that I've not completed a DoorDash order since November, but 23,000. And then the number that you mentioned was that you didn't know how many that you declined.
Mm.
I'm thinking,
Uh,
since I proudly boast of having a 0% completion rate, that means that I've declined everything that comes across my screen, right? I would
Basically,
say
yeah.
at least 90%, at least 90, probably more like 95% of the orders that have come across my screen, I have declined. So if we think of the inverse, that means I've seen probably at least 60,000 plus orders across my phone screen on the DoorDash app.
Mm. It's a lot of orders, a lot of trash orders, a lot of trash offers. You know, a lot
Yeah.
of low paying orders for sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
there that's why he has top decliner on his
yeah, man.
sweater there.
Wear that proudly, for sure. And the colors definitely had something to do with the Redskins colors for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So now I actually thought that was more like about 25,000 though. But um what I've noted, what we can talk about for sure though, is how the DoorDash app is not what it used to be. I think back to like 2020 or 2021. I always
mhm.
get it mixed up though. But one of those 2 years, I believe it's probably 2021, I had earned over 24,000 on that app alone.
Yeah, I think I was funny you mentioned that. I was looking at my tax forms because you know how you just send 1099 or whatever, and you can go back through
Hmm.
the years. And I was
Hmm.
looking at it, and yeah, man, 2021, I think I made like 75 grand or something like that, which is insane. When
Just
you
on on,
we-
on that.
just on DoorDash alone, which is pretty crazy. But
Wow.
back then you could make 300, 350 a day, like
Yeah.
just you weren't even trying. They were just coming to your phone.
Right. Now you're
Um,
talking about during the shutdowns?
yeah, for sure. Like during
Uh-huh.
that, like like the during the COVID times, around that time when people thought the world was ending, people were ordering wine and beer, like they were
Yeah.
stocking up, for
Uh-huh.
Armageddon or something.
Right.
Um, so you used to get a lot of Total Wine offers.
Oh
You
yeah,
used to do a
that's
lot of
that's one of them that you would talk about. Yes, that was one of
Total
them.
Wine was big.
Hmm.
Macy's was big. Macy's used to
Hmm.
do like this Macy's
With the
drops.
batch, batch
You know,
deliveries, and you talk
yeah,
about
and
those.
and and they would come during like after lunch.
Hmm.
So it was perfect because you have become slow, and then you had this orders to fill in the gap. So it was pretty easy back then for sure.
Right, but 75,000 in 1 year. God damn,
Yeah, I think it was like
man.
72, 73. Yeah, exactly, for sure.
Wow.
And that was like, and then that was like the biggest year. Then after that, it's nowhere near as that. That's for sure.
Hmm. Right. Well, I can say of making like, I know 2020 was like 75, 76,000 for the entire year for all my efforts. And then 80, 81, 82 in 2021, 2022. And then I transitioned to doing mostly last mile gig delivery. But
Mhm.
we're sticking to, you right now. So, and you also you also work at W2, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it was that's the craziest part that I was thinking about how much I used to work. I feel like I don't work
Mm-hmm.
as much anymore, as like many hours, especially with the
Mm-hmm.
gig work. So I don't need to, like and I always feel like back then my daughter was only 3, now she's 6, she's more
Yeah.
aware. So I
Yeah.
definitely wanna,
Yeah.
hey daddy, like why can you come home? Like why are you going to
Mm-hmm.
work? And those
Mm-hmm.
questions that back then I could just, she's not gonna remember. But now
Right.
she's, more aware and things like that. So I definitely want to be home more. The
Yeah.
W2, I've always worked it
Mhm.
overnight, 8:30 to 5 a.m. It's more like
Wow.
a
Mhm.
logistics kind of thing, just managing the
Mhm.
operation now, and it's been good
Right.
to me. So I've been lucky, very lucky.
Yeah, man. I'm just thinking about with my daughter. well, hey, she had a birthday last week though, but I remember when she was 6 years old,
Mm,
and she was what?
yeah.
She was in the second grade at 6, and yeah, I used to go by to school sometimes. One of the things that I often when I kind of laugh about now, but whenever I would show up, she would see me and daddy, 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 come running up to me and all. And
Mhm.
over time, kids would recognize me like, and they start running to her saying, "Hey, your dad's here, your dad's here."
Yeah, yeah, no, it's one of those feelings. It's hard to describe, but if
Mhm.
I can go pick her up and then she just comes running, it's awesome,
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
for sure.
So now, but now also, I'm kind of doing the cursory stuff, but we're gonna get into some
Mhm.
things though. But now the app, well, the app also is the reason why you end up diversifying yourself, and so
Oh
now you're
yeah,
on many other apps like
yeah. I
rideshare,
mean,
catering,
yeah,
and some
mhm,
last mile. So talk
yeah.
about some of those.
I do feel like the gig game when in like the gold rush era, like back in
Mhm,
COVID times, everybody flocked to it, and you could make
uh-huh,
all this money on the apps and this and that.
mhm,
And sorry, my dog is crying in the background, but at one point I'm like, you just can't make the same kind of money. And then I feel
mhm,
like at one point catering started becoming really big, and then
mhm,
deliver that and Zifty and all these other
mhm,
apps started coming around. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a while, to like sign up because for some of them
mhm.
you had to pay for the background, some you didn't,
Right.
this and that, and then eventually I'm like, well, I think there's money there for sure.
Mhm,
And then there's like the last minute, like I do VHO sometimes. Those
right.
videos do great, but VHO, it's a lot of work. Gotta go to the warehouse. It's a lot harder than picking up an order and dropping it off real quick.
Right.
Um,
Now, VHO is in Charlotte, which is an hour and a half from me. But I understand that those when those routes show up, they're gone in like 6/10 of a second. Is that true?
it used to be. I feel like either now maybe there's not that many drivers that want to do it,
Hmm. Hmm.
but the drop time has been changing. So it used to be like at 8 p.m. Now it's at
Hmm.
9. I can check it probably like 9:30 or so. And you
Hmm.
see a lot of routes, but I think because of where they're going, people
Hmm.
wait. So the way they do it is you can it, but you don't see exactly where you're going 2 hours before the delivery.
Hmm.
And then you see all the info. So I think a lot of
Hmm.
people wait till then because they want
Right.
to see all the info.
Hmm.
But they show you enough, like a little, basically like a range area of where you're gonna go, and
Right.
the pay's okay, I think. But a lot of people, I think, what's the best about the apps is guaranteed, right?
Right.
So because you could just log into DoorDash or Uber Eats and not get anything or not anything worth it. You know,
Hmm.
so I think a lot of people go to those apps because it is guaranteed earnings for sure.
Right. Okay. Now, someone just beamed in a question. Space Age Rich. He says he's looking for work. He has a felony. Is buying a van worth it? Well, I'm going to answer this as best as I can. Having a felony may preclude you with some places. I think that's a fair answer to make. There are some apps that will just take it on a case by case basis. Is buying a van worth it? If you're buying it specifically for the apps, no. But if you're buying it with the goal of it being a means by which you earn money, it can be. And what I mean by a means by which it earns money, you got to remember. Well, I've shared this many a times on my channel that people use the van for a lot of things. They use it for like tire repair, um, mechanic work, a mobile barbershop, a mobile pet grooming place. I've seen a van being used for gourmet ice. Up in Michigan, I saw a couple that converted the van into a pizza shop. So don't just limit yourself to what the van could be used in terms of delivery and transport. Think of some other things, and the van becomes the tool by which you can conduct your business. Hopefully, I've answered that question.
Mm.
Yeah, that's right. Nola Grind threw in there about car detailing or car washing, mobile car washing. That's another example. Let's see, another person driving with Chris. Not gizzard, man. It's geezer. I ain't no gizzard. I don't eat no gizzards, man. Shit.
That's kind of funny. That's hilarious.
But anyway, man, hey, thanks for coming through. Thanks for coming through, Chris. Let's see here. Um, I always like to address the questions when they come. So Viho is one of those that would you say then it's hit and miss?
Um, I think it's more hit than miss. I think the biggest factor is where the warehouse is from wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, my warehouse is like 25, 30 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
Which might not seem like a lot, but if it also depends of like what time of day, how they do it by cubic feet. So you really have to make sure. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I've seen people pack a freaking Toyota Prius like it's about to explode. They don't care,
yeah.
but
Okay,
it's
that sounds like Amazon Flex in that regard.
yeah.
Uh,
So it's
yeah.
mostly like you'll do those like ready to eat meals. Like they work with like Factor and like
Mm-hmm.
some coffee places, and
Mm-hmm.
for the most part they're not super big, but I always look at the
Mm-hmm.
cubic feet because
Mm-hmm.
my very first time that I ever went, if you can't fit one thing, they'll cancel
Wow.
the whole batch.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy was helping me out. We played Tetris. I came out of the warehouse like I couldn't really move.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not the safest thing, but
Right.
after that, I kind of was like, okay, let me make sure I put my seats down. Let me make sure that I completely empty out the car and things like that. But
Well,
I think the fact that it's guaranteed helps a lot too.
Well, again, I mentioned my Amazon Flex. What it reminds me of now, when I did most of my Amazon Flex in 2019, most of that year, I did it in 2011 Maxima, and I was able to actually fit some loads that were for like minivans and pickup trucks and all in the Maxima, but they didn't like the fact that I poached those loads and all.
Mm.
But what was it? Oh, this is what I got. I got to ask you about this one here.
Yes.
Let's see here. You're talking about this particular. Okay. Bear with me here. I'm getting this thing set up correctly. Yeah, here it is. I'm gonna play a little bit, and then you explain this to me. Okay. Um,
And I get a
here we go.
phone call. My phone says DoorDash. So I'm thinking, is he the customer or the DoorDash support, right? So then this guy goes, hey, my name is Michael. I'm from DoorDash support. And I was like, all right. And he's like, yeah, we got a report saying that you have a drunk woman doing deliveries with you. What's going on? And I was like, hold on, wife is calling, but I got to tell my story. And I was like,
That almost
no,
got you in
that's
trouble with
crazy. I
that.
was like, this is my first Dash. I don't have anyone with me. So how could I have a complaint when I haven't done any deliveries? And he's like, oh, let's get to the bottom of this. But he just didn't sound like DoorDash support. And then he was just asking me, when was the last time you dashed? And I was like, well, shouldn't you be able to tell me that if you're DoorDash support? And I was like, I don't know, man. You don't really sound like DoorDash support. And he's like, what? You don't say that? You don't think that I sound from the Middle East? And I was like, first of all, in my mind, most of support is not from the Middle East. I would say probably like Asia or India. But I was like, I didn't say that. Those are your words, not mine. And I was like, well, what are you trying to scam, bro? You know what I mean? And he's like, what scam? Oh, I eat off this shit and this and that and blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, he just hung up. I thought it was weird. So I called support. But I had my headphones on, so I didn't really bother to like, pull up the recording. So I called support and they're like, oh, that's kind of strange. Thank you for reporting it to me. And then I just said it was somebody maybe spoofing the number. I didn't think much about it, right? And then when I went, then after I hung up with support, I thought about it more. And I'm like, what if it's the customer? So I went on my DoorDash app and I hit the call icon, and it was the same number that had just called me pretending to be DoorDash support.
All right. Now I'm gonna say something before you can elaborate on this. That happened to me on a Uber Eats order, and it dawned upon me after he basically talked me out of the order. Had
Mm.
when I knee jerk react by canceling out the order, but it dawned on me that this guy was full of shit. But anyway,
Yeah, basically the same thing. Like, it was just a weird phone call, because like when he called, typically the support agents have a little spiel when they talk to you, and they have
mhm,
like a little thing they're reading, like a script, and this guy just didn't sound like that.
right.
And I think it was just like some Chinese food or something. It wasn't like a crazy order or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but it was going to like a fancier building, one of those where you got to get bussed in. You can't just leave the food out. You have to, put it in like the little food area, this
Mm-hmm.
and that. So it was weird that he called and he said, yeah, there's a report that you have a drunk woman in your car. What's going on? And that was my first dash in like days.
Right.
you know. And I was like, oh, that's weird. How can people report this if this is my first dash, you know? Like it made
Right.
no sense. So I don't know what he was trying to get at. If he was trying to
Mhm.
like maybe make me do something like drop the food off, or I don't know, or what, or
Mhm.
try to scam somehow. But yeah, I was like, people are so weird. Like, and then
Yeah.
once he said, oh, I eat off this, you know, but I scam all day kind of thing. I'm like, okay, good for you, man. But you know, it just happens that I got your order and not some newbie that just signed up on the app and has no idea what's going on. You know?
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, again, when I thought about the guy from with the Uber Eats order, um, yeah, he number one, somebody called him. I don't remember all the details, but I just remember that I bid for being talked out of the order. I think what it was, he made that order by mistake, and so he
Mm,
couldn't get in contact with. Somehow he was not successful getting in contact with Uber Eats, and so he figured that he would contact the driver and see if
I
he could
see.
kind of scam his way out that
Maybe,
way.
maybe.
And
And then
yeah,
you know one thing I didn't even mention, or maybe I did after that, but I went to there's like a 7-Eleven next to it, so I was just chilling, I was just parking there, and the
hmm
guy ordered again, like
hmm
same dude with the
hmm
same name from a different place, and I just unassigned it. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this crap
yeah,
again. You know, it's a lot easier just to unassign than to go through that stuff. You know, even
yeah,
like when restaurants close, like
hmm
I almost don't even want to report it because I feel like they're
right,
gonna think that you're trying to like get free money, this and that. I'll just unassign it. But there's
hmm
people that are the opposite, like, oh, well, the order came to me, so I want to take it and say that it was closed. Like, I want to get my half pay or whatever.
right.
So I'm like, you know, sometimes $5 not worth it. You know, whatever half
No,
pay is gonna
no,
be,
no,
whatever the
it
half
ain't
pay
worth
is.
it.
So
It ain't worth it. Besides, I ain't gonna take an order for $5. That's just me,
yeah,
though. But
yeah.
we'll talk
Mhm,
more about that one there. But
mhm,
um, I think back to a Grubhub experience that I had. I went through a stretch with a customer who was canceling. Well, he would claim that he didn't get his order delivered,
mhm,
which is a common scam by customers. And this particular guy, it was on a Sunday. In fact, I mentioned this in the gig geezer in the gig gizzard. No, but it's geezer, Chris. In the gig geezer archive, where this customer, I called you Grubhub in advance once I recognized who it was. I said, "Hey, look, y'all need to watch out for this guy. He has alleged that orders had not been delivered when they have been delivered." I'm like, okay, we take that seriously. Blah, blah. Well, guess what? I delivered the order, and within 40 minutes after delivering the goddamn order, I get a notification saying that it was not delivered.
mhm.
Now, what stopped his ass temporarily was that I took a picture. Well, the next time I delivered to him, when I realized where I was going, I took a picture of him receiving the order
Nice. I love it.
and have that uploaded into Grubhub's system, and he stopped for a while, but then eventually he started scamming again. But I made a mental note of that address and stopped accepting orders from that guy.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh no, people have comments like, you know, I have a ring camera like on their notes. I'm like, that's awesome, that's good. I record half my orders, you know, whatever. So
hmm
it's I think they're taking the whole photo, so then that's great because there's
hmm
definitely a lot of customers that I think on the DoorDash now, some people sometimes they have to sign. I think that's
hmm
a sign that they've already scammed a couple of times, so now they have to sign that they
right.
received the order and whatnot. So
uh
yeah.
Well, your guy, Nola Grind, he said, that's why I love recording everything. Now, I have yet to get a GoPro, but I understand that's what a lot of folk do. They have a GoPro. I think you have GoPro, right?
I use the Insta 360. It's the same thing basically, just
Okay.
different brands, you know.
Uh huh. All
But
right.
yeah.
Now, let's
Mhm.
see, JT, hey, thanks for coming through here. You have a question. You said, how old was my MC before I started getting brokered opportunities? JT, I was right at about 90 days. I was close to 90 days when I started getting brokered opportunities. And I happened to through somebody that I was dealing with, supposedly being my dispatcher, who turned out not to be a dispatcher. Um, I was able to get on with a carrier whom I still am. I guess you say I've done runs for. and hopefully that answers your question. But I have dealt with, in certain situations, there have been some brokers in which they go beyond the 90 days or 6 months. I've happened to say 9 months. I've seen a couple that say you must have your MC for a year, and I've even seen one say 2 years. Now, fortunately, I'm well beyond that now. In fact, last week my MC number became turned 2 years old. In fact, MC, by the way, Nova, is motor carrier number. Whenever you look at trucks on the road, that means motor carrier number, and that is your authority, which says then through the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, you have the authority to transport goods and items, be it hazmat or what have you.
Gotcha.
Okay, so now we're talking about deliveries and all. 625. We're
625 king, man. That's a crown that I'll wear, as long as I do the gig apps for sure. Like we were speaking earlier, back in the day, A50 was that magical number that if it came across my screen, this could be some hidden tip action here, this and that. Mm-hmm. And then at one point in my market, it just all changed. And then the A50, you would never see an order that high. Everything was, 325, 475, and to me, 625, that's the number that I found that if I take it, there's a chance, a small percentage that it might go up a cent or it might go up $2 or $3. So that was like the lowest number that I would take, 625 for, I don't know, 2 miles and from the good restaurant, this and that. But yeah, that's how I became the 625 king,
You're a better man than I am. That's all I'm gonna say. Now, I've learned my lessons. I mentioned last week how I told Red how I made the dubious error back in 2019, where I took a DoorDash order. I drove 20 miles and it paid $3.50.
Oh man.
Yeah, I never did that again. I even called DoorDash. And said, "Hey man, can't y'all bump this thing up? I mean, look, I drove all that. Sorry, we can't do that."
It's and I think especially when I see newer drivers, I feel like they're always like, "Oh, I'm taking these orders, so they're gonna reward me." I'm like, it doesn't work like that. It's an algorithm. They see that you take a 225, they're gonna keep sending you 225 orders, So it's almost like, and I feel like I don't want to say that it's targeted to a specific group, but a lot of newer immigrants hop on the apps, and $2 goes a long way back to wherever they're from. So they'll take $2-3 all day long. And I feel like DoorDash and Uber and all those apps, they that's kind of who they target. I feel like, people that really need $1 or $2, they'll just take whatever. And then they can just deactivate. Even when I got deactivated, I never got an email saying why it was deactivated. I never got an email saying.
You never do.
I never got one saying I was reactivated. I only tried it because I saw the Nugs just did another appeal. And his appeal, I did the same thing. Next thing you know, the app was just there. And I was back. So no explanation, nothing, and then it's funny when I talk to support, if for whatever reason, they're like, "Oh, wow, you're like a veteran dasher, blah, blah, blah." She's like, "Oh, I thought the app was glitching. I never seen someone with so many orders before." And I was like, "Oh yeah, can you help me out? Can you give me the extra dollar I'm asking for, or whatever it might be?"
Yeah, can you answer my goddamn question now?
So it's funny, but yeah, and I feel like people have this entitlement, like they're owed something, like, "Oh, I should be getting good orders, like I should be." I'm like, dude, you just, if it doesn't work out, go to a different zone, do another app. A lot of people just kind of just blame. They like to blame, but not blame themselves.
Right now, going back to those days, one thing that I often thought about, well, I actually do think about still, is like, man, I remember the days when you scheduled everything around DoorDash.
Yeah.
You pretty much scheduled everything around DoorDash, and then, you needed to be out in my market. You need to be out by like 10 o'clock so that you can kind of start lurking around for those catering orders that would start coming out.
Yeah.
And then somewhere's around 1-2 o'clock, you can shut it down for a while and then come back out in the evening, somewhere between 5:30 and 6, and then work and then work it that way. But yeah, it was DoorDash and Grubhub actually in my market. Those are the two that you wanted to make sure that you had scheduled. And in fact, when the shutdowns occurred, 2020 and part of 2021, I've mentioned how I bowled at one time at the regional pro level. I was able to fit in some time practicing between
Dashers,
between hustles. Yeah, I
Nice.
certainly did. Yeah, in fact, what would happen sometimes towards the end of practice, I start checking the app out and see what's out there. But yeah, it was very predictable back then.
I think for sure. I think back then you could argue, hey, if I'm online between 11 and like 1:30, I'm gonna make at least 75, $80, something like that. And
Mhm.
nowadays, for me, I feel like breakfast is more important in my market than lunch. Maybe there's
Really?
fewer people working, maybe there's not as many orders, but I feel like there's not as many dashers early at like 5, 6 a.m. The Dunkin' Donut orders, Chick-fil-A, bagel places. I don't get lucky sometimes. I get a catering order through DoorDash from like Einstein Bagels or whatever. I feel like I'm grandfathered into whatever because I'm not part of the tier program because everything's too low. I have
Right.
like 5% acceptance rating or whatever it might be. So technically, I shouldn't see those orders, but sometimes you get lucky and they just come your way.
Yeah,
You know?
air nine,
But-
air nine den, air nine den. Yeah, that's what we said. The bowling alley. Yeah. Well, I I don't. Again, it's almost as if it's like a different time, different era now. But and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I at least back then I talked at least from in my market. I saw then that I needed to have more than one option with the apps. And I was advocating that when everybody's like, "Oh man, you could do what you could do everything you need to do in one app." And now everybody's saying, "Hey man, y'all need to get on as many apps as you can." Okay,
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think nowadays for me, if I try to schedule my day around if I get a catering order or something, like I'm building around that because one good catering that can make up the whole lunch, if
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a good one.
and if it's a really good one, yeah, it could make your day.
Yep.
My first really big day was the basis of it was a catering order. It paid over $300.
Whew.
And then I came and then I'm thinking, well, you know what? I'm a gun for 6 bills that day. And I stayed out until I got 6 bills. Yeah.
Nice.
Let's see here. Chris says, I never got mine back. Thinking of doing a second account, but I know they're going to deactivate for duplication. Or they may not even onboard you. I've tried I admittedly I have tried to get back on with Amazon Flex, but I'm on their forever shit list. It's like once you're deactivated, fuck you. And so that's why I've said too that there's a mutual understanding between me and Amazon Flex for that very reason.
Yeah, I think what he's referring to is because when I got deactivated, I was off DoorDash for a while. I just signed up again and I got back on. So it was weird. I had like 2 accounts,
Oh,
and then
okay.
I knew that eventually that that wasn't gonna fly either during tax season or something. But then I got my old account back and I never logged back on to the other one. Like I never, you know what I mean? And I probably had maybe like a couple hundred, deliveries with that one. But I even now and then sometimes I get the face verification, with the DoorDash app or whatever, which I think is great, to weed out whoever's not supposed to be using the app. But yeah, no, I think it's I think for me right now, at least I don't know if it's in your market, but in my market, Sifty is my favorite catering app.
Okay.
I like their format better than Deliver That. But I think if you get a good one there, you can make some good money for the whole day,
Right. Let's see here. God, JT, have I done any work for any third-party logistic companies? Those type people. No, I don't because they don't pay enough. They don't pay enough. A Train, who said he commented earlier that he used to work in an oil patch. I think that has to be in West Texas. Yeah, I hate Amazon. Yeah, I'll give you that. Rideshare Rick, Rideshare Warrior Rick says Amazon Flex deactivated me, and when I found out, they said they had to. He had to reapply with a different email address, which he did, and now he's on the wait list for them. Dude, I did that with multiple email addresses, and they still are saying fuck you. So that's why I continue to say fuck you to them. So, but let's see. I asked you about that, Nova. If you deleted your second account, have you done that?
I didn't even touch it. I don't even want to log into that. I'm just, it's just gonna be forever dormant. I don't want to risk logging in and it's like, oh, duplicate account or whatever,
Right, and then really deactivate you for fraudulent.
Exactly, for sure,
right.
For sure.
All right, so now let's see here. We got this here. I'm gonna queue it up, and I've got some subsequent questions on this one.
Okay.
All right. This must be on a nice
and
day.
And then what if I'm not done and I have to go pick her up from school, or not school, like the little camp or whatever. So I don't know. Tomorrow we might just do. I think there's some catering on Potbelly's side, and we'll see what happens. But overall, I think it was I don't know how we call that a success, but it's still nice to know that the money's there, and if you want to go and get it, go ahead. I went from this zone to Arlington that has more opportunities. But he also has his own little drawbacks, like the parking, non-existent, the traffic, the foot traffic, the amount of people that just freaking walk all the time is insane. And then DC is just wild. DC is lawless to me when it comes to traffic. You can just drive. There's people driving around ATVs, doing their thing. U Street was crazy. I don't know if I clipped it or not, but at one point there were so many people on the street, it was insane. It was like sardines.
All right, now on this one, still there? Nova. Oh god. Did I? All right, let's see here. Did I lose Nova? All right, there's me. I apologize there. I was going to answer a question here. Let's see here. Patrice says she moved to Columbia, which is my market 3 years ago, and she's been in the gig market for about a year now. Love to meet me one day. I'm always busy, but you never know when you might see me. Let's see here. Who else? We got Chris. Okay, all right. He's still appealing the main one. A-Train lost. Yeah, okay. There it is. Yeah, there we go. All right, let me see with I'm gonna send what I'm doing, y'all, is I'm sending Nova the link again. Hopefully he can get back in. Unless he just popped back in. Let's see here. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, can you hear me? My fault. My dog ran and unplugged everything.
Oh,
that was my bad. Yeah.
Oh, well, that reminds me of a story. And I mentioned it in my Christmas Day live stream when I had Billy Davis Jr. and Marilyn McCoo of the Fifth Dimension, big group from the 1960s, Nova. If you're a geezer, you'll know about that group. If you heard the song Age of Aquarius, they sung that. Okay. What happened was Billy was describing how they actually came across the song Age of Aquarius. And as I added more time, the platform that I told you about where I did the live stream kicked me out. And it just so happened that as he finished, I was able to dial back in and get back to the conversation. So it must have been really meant for me to do that particular show. But it was a very hairy moment for for that. Now I showed what I was showing was the video where you described just how you're driving around Washington and all. I will say
the last thing
Mhm.
that I heard was DC was lawless, and then everything got unplugged as soon as that part,
Yeah.
hit.
I think about my first time going to Washington D.C. when I was working in Richmond. That's the first time I ever got lost in the metropolitan market. It was like I could really thank Benjamin Banneker for designing that city because man, I forget where I was, but it was near the Capitol. I turned on a detour and that was it. It took me 2 hours to find my way back out. Yeah. So
Yeah.
now you used to have your dollar challenges, and that was the purpose of this video. You were kind of described, you were kind of decompressing from having completed what you were going to do. So how did you do in that video? It was a $1,500 challenge. It may have been one of your last challenges that you did.
Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, I don't think we got anywhere near that. I don't think I think I mean maybe did like 1,200, something like that,
Okay.
And I feel like back in the day, I feel like 1,000+ weeks was bare minimum. Now if I
Mhm.
really wanna, because I'm not working as much, this and that, and I had a Podbelly gig that I don't do as much anymore. So
Right.
basically, they used to just give me cash or whatever.
Mhm.
And then after that, they were like, "Hey, do you mind if we hire you as an employee, but you don't do anything in the store?
Mhm.
We just they were basically trying to get away from doing cash payouts in their system for whatever reason. So I said, hey, as long as I get paid, I don't care. You
Mhm.
know. But yeah, no, I think I do miss doing those challenges, but
Mhm.
it's I'm just not out dashing as much as I used to. So I think if I were to commit to that, then I would have to just commit to being out more just for the challenge sake. If that makes
Okay.
sense.
All right.
You know.
So that's why you're not doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
okay. So that explains too. You're not doing this as much. Wait, it
Mm-hmm.
seems like a lot of us are kind of branching off to other things now. Um,
Yeah.
for whatever I guess that's an inevitability. Um, but it's still an option, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it's I know, I myself I complain all the time, but when you think about it, you're in your car, you're making money, listening to music, a podcast, whatever and no one's forcing you to take the orders,
Mm-hmm.
So you can just it's a blessing in a way. I mean, think about it, 25 years ago, 10, 15, you couldn't do that. That wasn't a thing. That wasn't a
Right.
job,
Right.
the way it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, even in the early gig space, were like, "Oh, you're a DoorDash driver?" Oh, kind of like trying to like put you down kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, and I'm just like, man, some of these drivers make a lot of money. I don't know, they make more than you, and you're the one making the food,
Right.
which is I know I always tell people, I'm like, we do the easy part. We're just
Mm-hmm.
driving. I'm not dealing with a kitchen or people coming in and it's busy inside and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other side of the coin, a lot of drivers are assholes, bro. They'll just go in there. Here's my
Mm-hmm.
order. Here's my phone.
Yeah.
Where's my food at?
I hate those clowns.
Yeah.
Hate those clowns, man. There was this one dude. He was just so fucking uncouth, man. He come in, put that fucking camera on like this and shit, and
Yep.
get the fuck out of here, man. I mean, it's
Yeah.
horrible. I wish Red was on it right now, man. She would have a nice description of some clown like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I'm not trying to be friends with the hostess, but if we're cool, I feel like that goes a long way. You're like, hey,
Mhm,
I want to check on your order,
mhm.
things like that. Just being a nice human, like which a lot of people are not.
Right. Let's see. Patrice says she's currently on DoorDash and Brody. She's on a wait list for Amazon Flex and Synpex. Are there any apps I might be able to suggest that are missing in the area? She's on Deliver That as well. Well, how? Let me ask you this, Patrice. How has Delivered That been? Because I don't see any orders on that app. I mean, there was a time I did, but I've probably seen like two this
Mm,
year, and nothing. I mean, the main catering app I think for a lot of folk is Deliver That, but I've got some things I'll put it like this. Um, there was a time that I was able to I had contact with Deliver That. They would like for me to have tried to they wanted to try to work with me to
like push it.
brand. Yeah.
Mm.
And this is where I've come out and said that many of these apps, and this is one reason why I don't mention as many apps by name, is because what we're doing is free advertising for these apps. Okay. And they have teams of people who actually check out the internet or the social media space to find someone who has visibility, or someone who articulates their brand well enough to where they may try to pursue some type of working relationship. And so once they feel that they've got that attention, well, then they're looking for the next fresh face, and you become last century's news.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why I don't like mentioning them by name, because I don't want to give them any free attention. I just don't. Let's see. Patrice, okay, she says deliver that is few and far between. I'm also Curio, and that is a ghost town. Yeah, Curio is basically in a different market. I don't understand why, but you never know. They may show up in the North Carolina or South Carolina at some point. Let's see. I mentioned this. Let's see. Right here, Rick Warrior. He knows of the fifth dimension. Yeah, that's going way back. You do know. I'm gonna share this with you. Right here, Rick. Their first hit song, "Up, Up and Away," was written by a young songwriter by the name of Jimmy Webb, who has since gone on to be in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Let's see here. Who else? He says he's done delivered that. You're in Southern California, and he's doing one or two a day. All right. Let's see here. The Hire. Hey, Geezy. No, it's Geezer. That old fucker. That old guy, man. That's
man.
Let's see here. Okay, got that one. Patrice, Viho, Bungie. Viho was in Charlotte. It's not in South Carolina. So maybe if you're in Rock Hill, which is on the border, you may see that. Dispatch. Yeah. Well, anyway. What else? I'm trying to make sure. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. That's right. Yeah. If you like the content that's been provided in this segment or any other segment, hit that subscribe button to give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others. That's what you got to do. That's right. Anyway, so what I would mention though, at least for me, I don't know if you've noticed a lot of my content, recall a lot of my content, Nova, but I often mention about $200 to $100 a day was my daily goal. And I went through stretches in which I had dozens of days in a row, weeks in which I would hit that number. I believe I got over 40 consecutive days in which I hit that number. And, that was a lot of work back then, even though, the market did allow for it.
Yep. I think for me, my goal used to be 150, and that was coming out like from like 11 to like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then coming back out from like 4 to like 7, because then I have to go to work at 8, But I can't remember the last time that I did 150 just with DoorDash alone. I feel like you would need to have other apps now.
Mm-hmm.
I know a big one here that I'm not, like I don't know if you know driving with Ty, but he's in my market area.
Yeah.
And he does like a lot of cargo stuff, and I'm like, man, the roadies that I see are those crappy subscriptions from like freaking CVS, paying $3 to go to a nursing home or whatever, like, or I'll see those massive gigs from Home Depot, but it says extra large. I have like a small SUV, so I'm not gonna, risk it like that. But I feel like, I know he starts out his day doing roadie, then he'll do some ride share. Like, you gotta do different things. So you can't just do one app.
Yeah. I noticed, with Driving with Ty, he mentioned, he was talking about a minivan so that he has the capacity of doing the deliveries and doing ride share.
Yeah.
I've said this many times though, but I liked the last mile space because packages and parcels, and even with the gig food delivery, the French fries and hamburgers and salads, they don't talk to you.
That's true. Yeah.
They don't ask you to turn on the heat, or do I have an auxiliary
aux cable? Yeah, the aux cable.
Yeah,
for sure.
So that's let's see. Rick's doing he's diversified. He's doing Monday through Friday for a courier messaging company using his own vehicle. That's right. Someone asked if I did any over the road. Not so. Now over the road is, I'm going to answer it like this. No, I have done some runs that I would consider over the run, but most of my stuff over. I've been able to be home basically every night. Very few of my brokered loads or expediting or load board opportunities have required me to spend overnight. The longest I've been out in doing all these are like 3 days, and those have been trips where I've gone to Texas. Okay. Let's see here. All right. Since you have your channel, that's right. He's cheering for you, man. He's like, your channel. He's like, yeah. Since you've done your channel, have you been able to gauge what type of impact you've had with the gig space, or the gig space community?
It's funny. I feel like, maybe it's just me, but I feel like we were like in this up climb, and that somewhere was just like plateaued. At least for me, for myself, I feel like I've been stuck in the 6,000 range for a while,
right?
But then there's days where you get more subscribers and this and that. At least locally, it was funny. I was out with my wife. We were doing some shopping, and then somebody stopped me and recognized me. And my wife looked at me. People actually watch your channel, and I was like, "Yeah, people actually watch my. What do you mean?" Like I was like, "It's just funny." When she was so surprised that somebody would actually here locally would recognize me. She thought, "Oh, maybe people from like the West Coast or somewhere else or this and that." But yeah, I think I mean, for me, I like to tell people, man, yeah, you can listen to what I say, but in the end, you got to do what's best for you. If you think a $5 order is gonna change your day, go ahead. But for I think a lot of people, you watch all these channels and then you're like, oh man, I want to do what they do, but they might not be in your market. The town might be different, the restaurants might be not. So I think I've had some impact. I like to think that I have. I mean, at least a positive one. I don't think I'm a toxic person. I think a lot of these gig channels have all this toxic, back and forth with other people and this and that. Everybody's trying to make money, and then I'm just showing you my day, with some side commentary and this and that. And for the most part, I think everybody's just trying to do the same, trying to make a little extra cash.
Right. Well, so I take it then that's kind of how you got into gig economy. It was really for
I'll tell you exactly how I got into it. There used to be I don't think he makes content anymore. There's this guy, his name was double DZ or double he used to be like over the top. He used to always yell and curse, and
worse
he used
than
to
me?
do like worse than you. Yeah, no, he was like he would be, he was always like, oh, we're gonna do this, and I remember one time I recognized the background of where he was dashing at, and I'm like, yo, that's like 10 minutes on the road. I know where this is at.
Okay.
And then I'm like, I think I can do the same thing minus all the negativity he was spewing out. So that's just one day I just turned on my old Google Pixel 2 XL and I just started recording with my phone, and I would edit on my phone, and now I edit with a tablet and this and that. But sometimes people are like, oh, I want to start a channel. All you need is a phone. You don't need a fancy camera or anything like that, because all you got to do is just hit record and then, share your day. And I think a lot of people would like to see screenshots, like to see proof, like, because you could just be making shit up, for all
Right.
I just picked up a $80 banger, dropped it off. Here's no proof of it, but
right.
I think the screenshots help. I think the challenges help. People can relate. They're like, oh, he's almost at the goal, this and that. But yeah, that's why I got into it. I'm like, this guy's doing what I want to do, and he's getting all these views, and I'm like, but he's so like negative. I'm like, I think I can do the same thing without being such a douche. And that's how I got into making the. And you know what's funny? I actually one time total douche in real life too. So he's just himself always.
Oh my! Well, I've actually said to folk. Hopefully, I seem to be rather consistent. I'm somewhat of the same person that you see in the videos as you met in person. But yeah, I think of this one guy right now. There's this guy named G and his wife. I believe her name is Lisa. Yeah, Lisa. But his name is G. And he came up. He saw me. He's like, Geezer. I'm here with the Gig Geezer. You look like Gig Geezer, man. You actually look young. You look younger than me. I'm with the Gig Geezer.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's like, people recognize you. It's a good feeling too, like, oh yeah, how you doing? Or you'll ask me how's your day going? Is it slow? This and that. Or they'll put in the comments, hey, I saw you, but I didn't want to approach you, but it's cool seeing you. This and that.
I've had that as well. Let's see here. A Train. He says he's in DFW, that's Dallas Fort Worth area, and he's going to try to do over the road for a bit in the summer. Well, A Train, I've got family in Fort Worth. In fact, I got first cousins in Fort Worth. One is I guess he's still active on the police force in Arlington. If not, he should be retiring. And my cousin is an attorney. And then my aunt and uncle are still together. They've been married like 62. This year will be 63 years that they've been married. But they're in Fort Worth as well. Yeah. I've got a couple more questions, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up. I have a saying that I coined or adapted where I say accept less, earn more. Accept less, earn more. Yours is no tip, no trip.
I still have that on my intro.
I know.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that, if you're paying for a service, I mean, I think it all depends on what you're getting, right? If you're getting a little burrito bowl from Chipotle, you tip $3. That's cool. Should DoorDash base pay be higher? Yes. Is it going to be higher? No. Because they know that they can get away with it. But then it goes like that. Or sometimes I'll get an order on my phone. I'm like, this is just like disrespectful. Like $6 for like 20 miles. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But yeah, see, for me, especially like in the area that I live in, with everyone being wealthy and stuff, and I get it. The way to keep your money is not spending it, But when you pull up to like a $5 million mansion, like I've actually delivered to Jonathan Allen. He's one of our tackles here at the Redskins. He ordered under his wife's name, which I'm guessing he does it on purpose, or maybe she ordered for him. I don't know, but it was handed to me, and then dude was super cool. Like, I didn't want to fangirl too much or anything, so I say, hey man, good luck this year, blah blah blah. Dude just threw me a 20, and at $20 cash on like a burrito order. Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But he was super cool, super cool. Because over here on this place called Great Falls, where all the people that have money live there. So like, the other old coach Ron Rivera, he used to live up there. I met him once actually when he was just randomly having dinner. It's definitely no tip, no trip for me.
No tip, no trip. Well, that's I'm gonna end it on this because you mentioned about some well-to-do folk. There was this family that I delivered to on multiple occasions. In fact, it got to a point where if I saw an approximation on the map, I'm like, oh, I might be delivering to these people. But the first time I delivered to them, it was like a graduation party, and it was a really nice tip, man. Really nice tip. But the house was down nearby the lake, and the cheapest car was a BMW.
There you go.
Cheapest car was a BMW. But over time, what I noticed was those tips got less and less and less and less. And so I stopped taking orders. If I noticed it was in that approximate area, I stopped taking them because it's like, no, that's not what I'm looking for now. Maybe I'm being greedy. Maybe I'm being,
You know what I think it was probably? They probably noticed that people would still take their orders if they tip less, So the times that you weren't doing it, someone else did it for less. So they're like, oh, why do we gotta tip more if anyone's gonna take it, for less money? So that's probably what happened. Yeah.
Right. So hey, Nova, we're at an hour, man.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Sorry for the little part where we got cut off, but hopefully it wasn't too long.
No, it wasn't long. I mean, I was able to kind of improvise for those 45 seconds to a couple of minutes. Or they got some bad service. That's right, Nola Grind. You're right. It could be bad service as well. Or somebody who's just an absolute jerk or what have you. Yeah, you're right, man. But I'm gonna ask you this question as I ask some people. Since really gig delivery is not your main focus and all. how about then your channel? Is there anything that you may want, that you envision with your channel, that you may want to do with it?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know. I feel like it's at a point where if I did want to rebuild or rebrand, I probably could, because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the gig people that used to watch my channel,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they don't do gig work anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
so they're still subscribed, but then because they don't do gig work anymore, they don't relate to it, you know. So I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people, at least my channel, I think that's why I kind of like plateaued a little bit, because people just stopped doing the gig work. So I'm not gonna watch this guy do gig work if I'm not doing it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, there's times where like, you know, you want to branch out, do something else. But I think I would keep this channel the way it is, and then if I wanted to do something else, I'll just make a whole nother channel unrelated, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to do whatever. Because I feel like YouTube doesn't even like that when you change your niche too
Right.
much. It doesn't push your content and this and that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for the most part, I'm just gonna, you know, maybe I don't go out as much, or I don't do deliveries as much, but when I do and I record, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I like to put out some good content and stuff.
Right. Well, Nova, hey man, thanks for coming by.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me. Hopefully, you know, maybe you can have a Ty on here, or the Nola grind. You know, David. I'm sure he'd
Yeah.
love to do it. You
Oh
know,
yeah, I'm gonna, Nola, I'm gonna be getting in contact with you, man. I'm gonna be getting in contact with you. Hopefully I can. In fact, yeah, I'm gonna check out, I'm gonna go over to your channel. If not, Nola, just email me here. In fact, I'm gonna put it here. Um, this is my email address. Mm, I hope that, yeah. Let's see here. Do I have it? Yeah. There you go. Nola, email me, or I'm going to email you soon, and we're going to talk about deliveries and some poker, because I used to play online poker, man. I wasn't a bad player, so I got some. but but
yeah, of
Nova, man, thanks for coming on. I'm going to end things
course.
end up here. Well, y'all, thanks for hanging out here and joining in on the damn conversation. I've been speaking with Nova Hustles. Next week, I've already got my guest lined up. This is a person whom I've described as the person whom I met a few years back. That I end up getting a Sprinter / cargo van after talking with him. His channel is Gen Wealth Show. He's a young guy. Well, when I met him, he was 26 years old, and so that meant that he was shit, like about 40% of my age at the time. But hey, you're never too old in life to learn something. This old dog learned a new trick, and in this particular case, I ended up looking into getting a Sprinter / cargo van. So we're going to talk about a lot of things in the delivery and transport space, and he'll be on the next conversation and with I'm speaking. So y'all, again, thanks for coming through here. A Train, thanks for coming through. Nola Grind, Rideshare Warrior Rick, Patrice out of Colombia. I saw Steve Rideshare Rodeo. I saw Red. I saw The Hire. Who else? Who else did I see on here? Driving with Chris. It's good. It's all good, man. It's all good. You know, like I said, it's geezer, not gizzard. But hopefully y'all will be joining next week's conversation. And with that, again, as I usually say, hey, may your grind and may your hustle continue.